Interviewing witnesses can be a real pain at times, and doing it wrong can lead to real problems. There are 5 main things you need to do during every interview. But it's not just about what to do during the interview, it's also about what to watch for during the interview. Once I learned these things to watch for, my interviewing skills leveled up 100%. Every successful interview starts with preparation, and there are several steps to preparing for the interview you must take. First, you need to know who your witness is. Is he married? Does he have children? Where does he work? What does he do for fun? Does he have a criminal background? You need to conduct a thorough background for each and every witness, and I am not just talking about running them in a database. Yes, you do need to run a comp report on them. In fact, I recommend to run a comp report in at least 2 databases. You will get a treasure trove of information to be sure from these comp reports, and I always see differences in the details from one database comp report to another. But that is not the end-all, do-all to be sure. Now you need to double down on that intel and fact-check it to make sure you have accurate information. For instance, I have seen many comp reports show potential criminal activity on my subject, only to find out later that the potential criminal activity was actually related to someone else, not the subject or the witness I was investigating. And to fact check that information, just go to the source. Go to the state, county, or city records to see if it is accurate. Yes, this takes time. Yes, there usually is a cost to doing this, but that cost is not your cost. It should be your client's cost. And the cost and risk of not verifying your data is considerably higher. This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. You also need to do an OSINT, open source intelligence investigation, on every witness too. This will lead to all kinds of information you need to know about your witness. For instance, if the witness likes going out and partying a lot, that may play a role in what questions you need to ask them regarding how much they really remember. If the witness has several younger kids, that is good to know too, as kids can often create distractions for witnesses, and you need to know if that occurred during the incident that you're investigating. You should always review prior statements the witness gave as well. Not doing this is a huge mistake many PIs make. You need to scrutinize these prior statements, reports of their statements, and recordings of those statements, and then make a list of items of interest that you need verified. Do not assume everything is as it looks. You need to make sure it is accurate when you interview the witness. I have had many cases where the police report stated that witnesses said one thing, but when I interviewed them, they said something else. I have also had many cases where the other investigator, be it a police officer or even another private investigator, mixed up one witness's statements with another. Make sure when you start the witness interview, you always start by establishing trust and rapport with the witness. Don't just jump in and start asking questions or making allegations. This will get you nowhere. You need to create a comfortable and non-threatening environment that encourages the witness to open up, be truthful, and give you all the details you need. And you know what? You don't know what details you need, so you need to make sure you make it easy for the witness to tell you everything. You should also take detailed notes, but there is one big mistake most PIs do when taking these notes that often will affect the quality of the details they gather. The details you need to record are dates, times, places, people, as well as the whys and the hows things were done. This is a lot to document, and most of us cannot remember everything a witness says, even if we think we can. I have sat in many interviews with other PIs who thought they could remember everything, only to find out later that they missed critical things the witness said. I generally try to record all interviews I conduct to make sure I can report all of the details accurately. I just tell the witness, in order to ensure the interview will go quickly and to ensure I get all of the details and don't have to keep asking questions over and over, I'm going to record the interview. I then ask them if they are okay with me recording the interview. And then when I start the recording, I always state my name, the date, time, where I'm conducting the interview, who I'm interviewing, the names of any other people that are present. Then I ask the witness if I have their permission to record the interview. 9 times out of 10, they never have an issue with this. But if they do have an issue, I have to make some decisions. I could decide to still record it even if I don't have their permission. I don't recommend this, as it may not always be legal and the evidence gathered may not be admissible, and it could lead to legal action being taken against the PI that's doing it. What I would usually do instead is to shut off the recorder, put it away, and grab my notepad and my pencil and get ready to take notes. But a big mistake a lot of PIs do while taking notes is taking too many notes. I know you need details, you need to document it all, and how do you do that if you don't take note of everything? Well, shorthand is the answer, folks. No, you don't have to remember shorthand from high school in the 1970s. Yes, that was a thing we had to take way back in the old days. I have my own form of shorthand I use. Oftentimes it's just quick phrases like he left or she said, then a few keywords of what the witness said she said. This takes a little practice on your part just to be intentional in practicing it. You can just watch my videos here on YouTube or any videos for that matter, then just take notes but never pause the video. Then take your notes and write up a brief report of what you learned. Then watch the video again while reading your report and take note of what you missed. It's okay, you will miss a lot to be sure, but then start thinking of what shorthand you can use to help remember some of those points. There is another huge mistake many PIs make while trying to take all of these notes, and that is interrupting the witness, which could be for one of two reasons. Both of these reasons for interrupting the witness, though, can have catastrophic results on the interview. The first reason many PIs interrupt the witness is simply to catch up on their notes. They get behind and don't want to miss anything, and you think it makes sense to just press pause, but you don't want to do this unless you absolutely have to. The second reason PIs might interrupt the witness is to clarify what they said again. It seems to make sense, but don't do it. What I do is just write a quick question mark in front of that note so I can ask about it later. The big risk you take when you interrupt the witness is you cause them to lose traction. Once they get to talking, they will pick up momentum, and once that momentum stops, it's hard to get it started back up. They may forget what they were going to say next, or get distracted by your notes and wonder if they're doing something wrong. Then they get nervous about what you might be writing down. You don't want to do anything that will make the witness nervous in any way whatsoever. These interruptions also include interrupting the silence. Yes, you know, those awkward moments of silence between thoughts. When you are having a conversation with someone, it is quite common for the other person to speak once you go silent, as this often reflects the end of the thought. But an interview is not a conversation. You want the witness to be just as comfortable as if they were just sitting with a friend having a conversation, but you need to let them talk. Interrupting those moments of silence could interrupt their thought process. You see, oftentimes we pause between thoughts and pause when we are considering our words carefully. Allowing for that white space during the interview allows the witness to think for a moment, then add more details as their brain catches up. I know, it will feel awkward at first, and, well, to be truthful, it still feels weird, but it is highly effective. This is something you need to practice too. You can do it when you're talking to your friends, your coworkers, family, and kids too. In fact, that is a great way to get your children or grandchildren to tell you more. Just let the white space, the silent moment, last for about 5 seconds. When you do ask questions, make sure they are open-ended questions, not closed-ended questions. You need to ask questions that forces the witness to discuss the answer, not just blurt out yes or no. That's what a closed-end question is. Things like, did you see the blue truck hit the red car? Regardless of what the answer is, it requires you to ask another question or move on to the next question. An open-ended question would be something like, tell me what you remember when you approached the intersection where the accident occurred with the blue truck and the red car. You see, it's actually not a question, but oftentimes it's a request for information. Once the witness tells you what they remember, you could ask them to describe what they saw. So if they say, I remember leaving the store, getting in my car, then as I pulled up to the stoplight, I saw the accident. You can then say, tell me what you remember seeing regarding the accident. This then leads to another thought, which leads to another question, which leads to another thought, and so forth and so on. Another thing I always do during an interview, or actually immediately after the interview is over, I sit down and I do a personal debrief. I sit and I quickly write down anything I think of that I know I didn't write down during the interview. Then I read my notes, and as I read them, I write more notes as I remember things. This helps ensure my notes are as comprehensive as possible. I do this personal debrief as quickly as I can after the interview, too. Besides taking notes, though, there are some other things that you need to be doing during the interview. You need to be watching the witness for certain signs that could lead you to believe they may be being deceptive or they may be confused about certain facts. Inconsistencies in their statements is one that you need to watch for. When they talk about a particular thing, is it consistent or do the details change from time to time? One thing I often do is add questions to my list of prepared questions as the interview progresses. One thing I will add is clarification statements for later during the interview. Things like, tell me again, what do you remember about the blue truck that hit the red car? I do these to make sure their story stays consistent, and I don't ask for the clarification immediately after they make a statement. I ask a few minutes or a few thoughts later. And this goes hand in hand with the biggest question I often ask to help me clarify the consistency of the witness statements, which I will discuss here in just a moment. You should also be watching for body language red flags as the witness is being interviewed. Do they start fidgeting with their fingers? Are they always turning their head away from you? Do they cross their arms? Do they avoid eye contact with you? These could be signs they're being deceitful. None of these actions mean they're lying 100%, no doubt. In fact, they may not be lying at all, but they may be trying to avoid talking about certain details. Watching their emotional state is also important, and be aware they may try to use emotional manipulation during the interview. You need to first make sure that they are not becoming emotionally distressed. Many times, as they reflect on certain situations, this can happen. Give them time to recoup and rethink and gather their thoughts. But I have seen some witnesses that use emotions to try to manipulate the interview, saying things like, I just can't talk about that today. And I get it. Some things are very hard. But I also know in order to get to the truth, we need to know what the witness knows. So I just stay calm, let them try to regain their composure, and hopefully they will continue where we are in the interview. Otherwise, I just circle back around to that topic later in the interview. And if they just refuse to talk about it, then I make sure it is well documented in my report so the attorney knows that there may be something this witness is hiding. And I guarantee you, the attorney will put them on the stand and ask the court to compel the witness to answer the questions. Watch out for the over-aggressive and confrontational witnesses too. Oftentimes a witness, especially a hostile witness or a witness for the other side, will use confrontation to manipulate the interview. Again, I try to stick to my guns, but if they refuse to talk, well, I can't force them to talk. I just make sure it is well documented in my report and let the attorneys handle the tough work. Now, the one thing I always do to help clarify some or all of the facts the witness gave me is asking them to go in reverse order. Now, I don't necessarily ask them to tell me what they did that day in reverse order. Rather, I start off at the end and would work myself back in time like this. You said the tow trucks got there on scene and towed off the red truck and the blue truck, and then you went home. But tell me again, right before the tow trucks got there, where were the drivers of those vehicles? Oh, okay. So they were both sitting in separate police cars. Why did they get into the police cars? And then just keep working it back, asking open-ended questions so the witness tells you the story in reverse order. Oftentimes, if they are being deceitful or hiding something, it will come out or they will get stumped trying to tell the same story the same way. Now, if you want to know more about what it's like to be a private investigator, then check out this video.